I'm Michelle Ryan. I am going to run through with you a tutorial on how to film your own videos from home using your phone, which is obviously, given what's going on at the minute, what a lot of people are being asked to do. But there can be a very big difference in a good quality home video and a very, very poor quality home video. And it can be as simple as a few steps just to really get that quality up, because obviously right now, I'm a videographer. I can't be out filming people with my professional cameras. So what we're trying to do is get those home videos looking as polished and as professional as possible, and ultimately saves you time as well, so that you're not re-recording, having to go back over it. Because even me sitting in front of my camera right now, it takes a while to kind of get yourself geared up to it and get everything set up. I'll show you my own camera setup here in just a moment, if you could see how many things it's balancing on. But it's all these little tips to try and get you set up to get shooting home videos that are good quality and that are easy for you to do as well, that don't take half the day to do. So to start with, I'm going to be showing you from a phone, because I think that's probably most likely what the majority of people are going to be using are their phones. Obviously you can also use a laptop, the camera on the laptop screen. I would advise, if possible, unless you have like a Nokia 33 something, a very old phone, if you do have a smartphone, I would suggest using this rather than the likes of a webcam or a laptop. And that is just simply down to the quality. They're just, the cameras in these guys now are just amazing. Compared to laptops, are just still not great. They're webcam material. The audio tends to drop out of sync with the video and all of this. So if you can at all, let's go with the phone. Also, it's easier to set up with the phone in various parts of a room if you're in a tight spot or an awkward spot, or you want to go outside, anything like that. So tablet, likewise. I think tablets are still pretty decent as well, if you've got an iPad or something. So to start with, my phone is an Android, it's not an iPhone, and please excuse the cracks on the screen. But to start with, if we go to camera, I'm in video right now. I want to make sure that the quality of the video is good. So some of your phones, you might not realize, might be set to quite a low quality, which is fine for the kind of videos you're doing at home, because you don't want to be clogging up loads of space in your phone when you're taking videos. I know what that's like. But we want it for this purpose to be quite high. So if you can see up here where it says 1080p, we want it to be a 1080p. Now in my Android phone, it was up at the top. So if you click there, you'll see the other options. You'll see 720p. That's also good quality. You can go with that, but do not drop any lower than 720p. I think there might be a 480p or a 320. They're very, very poor quality. Ideally, we want it to be 1080p, which is high definition. So you're shooting a nice HD video. Something to bear in mind with that is that it might be taking up a good bit of storage on your phone. Obviously, as soon as you're done, you'll just want to offload these files and delete them off your phone. But to start with, you might want to make sure that you do have the space. Some phones take extra SIM cards you can pop, or SD cards you can pop in there. Or it could be as simple as just after each clip, offloading onto your laptop, deleting, going again. Just something to be aware of, because there's nothing more annoying than getting all set up and about to record only for your phone to say that you don't have the storage for the video. You'll have other options there in your camera as well to do with the frame rate. It'll say 60 FPS or 30 FPS. Anything from, there will literally only be 2 or 3 options of this. It'll be 24, 30 and 60, I think. Don't go 60. 60 frames means you're going to have a lovely slow motion video, which is going to be absolutely no good to you for what you want to do, unless you're doing some kind of action video out the back garden. Set it to 24 frames or 30 frames. One thing I'm really going to strongly suggest is to put your phone on airplane mode as well. So moving on to the actual setup, physical setup of your phone. Most important thing to start with, the first thing you want to do is have your phone in landscape mode. So that's this way, lengthways, not portrait mode, which would be the selfie mode, really. You don't want that. And I'm going to show you why right now, to what the difference of landscape versus portrait is. So we want to have our videos in landscape mode. It means you're going to fill the screen. So anybody watching it, be it on their phone or on a laptop or on a computer or device, you'll be filling the screen, as opposed to it being that really narrow strip down the middle. It's no good. At all, and you just have more room to play with when it comes to the edit as well, to be shooting it this way. So always this way. You want to use the camera that is facing away from your screen. It's the camera on the back of the phone. It is just a much better camera than the one on the front screen. So when I'm filming myself, the screen is pointed away from me. Doing portrait mode. The screen is pointed away from me so that I am just looking at the back of the camera, at the back of the phone, staring into the camera. That's what you want. Handheld versus non-handheld. We don't want any handheld videos if we want them to look good. Right now I have a camera. I'm filming this on a camera just so that I could also show you my phone. My camera is balanced on a few books. So I have MacGyvered some books, some very, very thick maths books and some boxes. And I think even still, if my arms are hitting the table, you're getting that wobble. So it's just little things to be conscious of like that. So I shouldn't be doing that. I should be stepping away from the table a little bit. So here's an example. If I were to hold the camera myself, this is with one hand, with two hands. Obviously getting somebody else, you might think, to hold the camera would solve the problem, but still, especially if it's going to be a video longer than 10 seconds, those arms get tired, the video gets shaky, and it just doesn't look very good. We don't want handheld. Handheld just looks messy, it looks untidy. If you suffer from motion sickness, a lot of viewers can feel a little bit queasy watching it. Your camera is going to struggle to keep up as well with any kind of motion and things like that, and the audio might drop out. Solid, set up on a book, on a tripod. You can also get something like this, which I believe we purchased in a €2 store or Mr. Price or something for €5. You clamp your phone, and we've twisted it all around, but you clamp your phone in here and you clamp this to a table or to whatever, a counter, an edge of anything, and there you go, you've got a little tripod. Obviously as shops start to open up more and more, you'll be able to get items like that, but I mean really you could make do with just blocking your camera up onto a load of books. I'll also share some pictures of some very more elaborate things that people have made in the last few weeks of how to make little makeshift tripods for their phones using cups and elastic bands and paper clips and all sorts of things. So there's lots of ways you can do that, but the number one thing is really we don't want handheld videos at all. Even if it's somebody else holding it for you, nobody can hold perfectly still without any movement. It's impossible. So just bear that in mind and be prepared before you start your video to have it nice and level and steady and good to go. You want your camera to be at eye level at all times. The kind of trap that people fall into quite often, especially if they're filming on their laptop, which is probably what you're seeing a lot on TV at the minute, the likes of Graham Norton show or any talk shows where they're doing their interviews via Zoom or Skype, is that it's somebody sitting at their laptop or their phone and they have it down on the table and they're just looking down like this. I mean, the obvious problem with that is that it's unflattering. But again, it's just from kind of a pleasing to the eye point of view, it's poor, it doesn't look good. You're looking up someone's nose, which is never pleasant, and it just doesn't look professional. You want it to be eye level so that you're looking up, you're looking straight at the camera and you're able to speak clearly. Eye level is just the rule of thumb, and that's the best thing to go for as well. When you're setting up your phone, you may need an assistant to help you with this, because if I'm setting it up this way, I can't see my screen, so I can't say who's in shot. So if you've got somebody else in the house that you can just kind of grab for 2 minutes, have them sit in the chair and you frame it up how you would like it, or vice versa, you sit in the chair and have them be able to tell you, are you all in the frame? So ideally you want to see elbows and shoulders in that frame. Depends what you're doing. If you're going to be reading a book, for example, you might want a wider frame and have the camera a little bit further away, but we'll go into more detail in that in just a moment. These are just the basics to get you set up first. So the next thing to consider before you start your video is where you're going to shoot it. In your house, out the back garden. So this is obviously incredibly important because there's so many factors that could interrupt your video depending on where you film it or just make it look kind of poor. So a quiet room is the obvious. And that means a room with really no background noise whatsoever, and these can be little noises and you would really be surprised about what the microphones can catch on these. The thing I'll say from the very get-go about audio is while we can fix little kind of imperfections and issues with video, on audio there's very little you can do to correct bad audio. You cannot remove something from the background, you can't remove a noise, you can't do anything like that. It's just an absolute headache if you record a whole video only to find out that there was a noise. So what I did before I started this was plug in headphones and monitored it, make sure my levels were okay, make sure there was no weird noise that I just can't quite hear myself, but my phone is picking up. It's just really important to do all that. So noises like a very loud clock ticking can be quite distracting. A dishwasher, a washing machine, people talking outside the room, someone typing in the room next to you, because I know we're all sharing workspace at the minute. So it's just to be aware of these noises. Try and switch everything off just for the however long it's taking you, maybe 15 minutes to do your video, and try and get as quiet as possible. If you choose to do your video outside, which can be quite nice, just be aware of wind noise. That's the main thing. You might pick up some lovely nature sounds like birds, maybe dogs barking. I mean, that's okay. They're in the background, and you can't go around to all your neighbours' dogs and birds and tell them to be quiet. But it's just wind really is what you need to be aware of. And one thing, if you have to film your video outside and it is windy, try to face away from the wind. So just always bear in mind that the microphone on your camera or your device or your phone, mine is down here, where I plug in the headphones. I think it would be that way on most phones, given that you hold them like this. So it's going to be down the bottom of your phone. So if you've got a wind blowing this way, it's blowing directly into that microphone, and it's just going to cause a load of noise that you won't obviously hear while you're talking away and filming away, unless you've got headphones in. So just be aware of that, and that would just be simply turn the camera around the other way. So the microphone's here now, the wind is blowing this way. So just maybe move around the garden, move around the outside space with headphones in, and kind of catch a space. If you can put up some kind of even, windshield that is going to block any wind coming in there, that would be ideal. Indoor spaces then, you want to film in daylight. It's just natural light is the best source of light. And it also saves you the hassle of having to set up any other lighting. So daylight, definitely. If it's a very, very sunny day, right now, I will show you an example of where I'm set up right now. The window, the light source is coming from here. You can probably see it shining across. If it's anyway dull and you need a little bit of extra light, lamps are fine. The most important rule of thumb for lighting is that the light source should never be coming from behind you. So I'll just show you an example of what I mean. So when the light source is coming from behind you, it just blows everything out and you become a silhouette, so it's no good. It can be in front of you, it can be to the side. Just be aware about being in direct sunlight. So right now it's a cloudy day, so all I have is just light kind of streaming in the window. But if it was direct sunlight hitting me, depending on the device, some are better than others, they may not be able to handle that much, and it will just blow out what it's looking at. So this, if the light was shining here, it would just be really, really bright light, and then this part would be dark. So try not to sit in direct sunlight. You just want light coming in that window, and you'll be able to see straight away from looking at the screen that it's nice and bright. So definitely natural light. Avoid doing it in any kind of dull situation or night or with loads of lamps. It just won't look as good. Your background. This is really determined by the kind of video you're going to do. My only advice would be to not pick a background that's too busy. In saying that, some videos I've got from some people would have lovely bookshelves in the back, which is relevant to something that they're talking about. They're talking about books, they're talking about poetry, illustration. They might have their studio behind them, which is nice and fun actually, and it is nice to look at, as long as it's nothing that's going to draw attention away from the person that's speaking, or as long as it's not something that's moving, that's shining, that's causing a reflection, anything like that. Just something to consider when you are picking the space. And that's not going to distract you as well while you're speaking, because if you are looking at a screen, you can see my eyes glancing over now and again. And if there was something distracting me, I'd be continuously glancing to that, which is quite distracting for someone to try and, if I'm trying to engage with someone and speak to them, it's very distracting if I'm constantly looking away. Next section is about framing, which we've touched on a little bit, but I'm just going to go into a little bit more detail. And again, this will be determined by the kind of video that you're doing. If you're going to be holding props, if you're going to be reading a book, if you're going to be showing something, it's just to be aware of where you are in this frame. So right now, as you can see, I'm pretty much right in the middle of it. I've got, a bit of space to use my hands if needs be. I'm not cutting off my head like this. And also, as you can see, that's kind of angled down a little bit as well. And I'm not kind of floating way far off as well. And this would have to do with audio as well. If you are using your camera, they're great little machines, but we don't want to ask too much of them. These cameras, or these microphones, are used to pick up sound within a close vicinity. So if you have it at the other side of the room, you're going to have to shout, and nobody wants to be shouted at when watching a video. So you just want to make sure if you need a wider frame like this, for example, while you're holding a book, just push the phone back a little bit more, or push yourself back a little bit more. And again, it's the importance of choosing a quiet room. If you're in a nice quiet room, then you won't need to be, shouting for the phone to catch the audio. So the idea is that you fill the frame as much as possible. So it's all to do with the setting and the purpose of your video. If you need to go closer to the camera for whatever reason, if you need to hold an item closer to it, or even have yourself closer, this would be a closer frame. Again, it's just to be aware of the space above your head. Leave about an inch when you're looking at the screen. So you don't want it chopped like this, because there's no way you can fix that afterwards. Whereas if you always err on the side of caution and leave more space above it, we can always crop that in a little bit more later if you need to. Whereas there's no fixing this. If you've cut off the top of your head, that's you gone. So just be aware of that. And likewise, if you're filming further away, just frame it a little bit more generously. Whether it's you yourself editing the video, or if it's an editor doing it for you, they can put in certain tricks and things to crop in a little bit closer, have you a little bit closer than you are, but you can't ever crop out. So that's why I'm saying always allow for a little bit more space than is needed. And then that leaves a little bit of wiggle room in the edit where you can kind of tighten things up a little bit. Maybe, if it needs to be straightened, anything like that can all be done. So just be aware to not be floating at the very top of the screen like this. The simplest type of video is this one right now, which is me speaking directly to the camera. We don't need to move the camera. I don't need to move or show anything per se, though I am going to other photos that I have showed you, other clips, which are called cutaways. And cutaways can be a really nice little tool to just add something to your video, especially if it's something, as I said, if you're reading a book, if you're showing something, you don't want to be spending most of your video kind of going, now you can see this. It just causes a bit of a mess. It doesn't look very neat. You're trying to see as you're holding something up, is it visible? You don't know how long you need to hold it up for. And it just interrupts the flow and the rhythm of the straight talking video. So my advice would be, if you would like to do cutaways, first film your video from start to finish, just like this, with me speaking to the camera. I'm saying everything I need to say. I'm taking mental notes, and obviously before you shoot a video, you would prepare what it is you want to say, and you would prepare when you might want to go and see a different image or a different shot. So if I was reading you a book, my frame would be wider than this, or maybe this would be fine. And I'd be reading, and I'm, reading away to myself. And I know as I'm sitting here, I'm like, this could be boring to the person watching because they can't see what I'm filming. But just keep going as you would, really naturally, really normally, until you get that part of the video done. Then you move on to the next part, which is where you might want to take shots of other things to put into the video. And it's at this point then when you will move the camera around, when you will set it up at different angles, be it a high angle looking down at a page, looking over your shoulder, and various different things. You might even take the camera outside to show something that you were talking about. And again, it's just applying all the same principles again. Try not to have it handheld unless it absolutely has to be, unless you've no way of doing it other than that. An important thing is, if you are doing these cutaway shots, you want them to be at least 5 seconds long. And that's not to say that they will be on screen for 5 seconds. Be it yourself editing this or somebody else, they can apply something to it. They can have a slow movement. They can have it zooming in, zooming out. You just need that, as I call, buffer time. So the buffer time will just give you that time to play around with that image. It might only be on screen for 2 seconds, but you need at least 5 seconds of that clip to be able to play around with it. And on that point, I should say, with any clips you're filming, so these ones straight to the camera as well, always allow 3 beats, which is kind of the equivalent of 3 seconds. When you sit down first, start your video, so you hit record. I sit down, I get myself settled into a comfortable spot, so I'm not going to be shifting and moving. Count 3. And then you start your video. And the importance of this is, again, it's for the edit. It's trying to kind of be thinking constantly that this isn't the finished product. This video will be edited. So it gives you that, that space at the top and at the tail of the video. So likewise, when I finish my sentence, and then I'll hit stop. I won't just start, saying my last sentence as I'm reaching to hit stop, because you can't fix that afterwards. So you want to leave room that in case you want to put a logo at the start of the video, a little bit of music, a photo, anything like that. You just need that buffer time. So don't be in a rush. Try and have everything nice and settled. Take your time doing it. Take a breath. If you fluff a line, if you make a mistake, if you want to do it again, just sit, take a breath, and you go again. Try not to be shuffling around, to be stopping, to be playing, to be, just causing a complicated edit for yourself, really. While I'm giving you tips for this video to look as best as it can, at high quality as it can, it's not going to be a professional studio shot video. And nobody will believe that because I'm sitting in my kitchen. But if you do make mistakes and fluffs, and they're not a big deal, they haven't upset anything, you can keep going, just keep going is best thing to do. If you feel like you're getting tongue-tied, like a few times in this video, a word wouldn't come to me, so I stop and I start the whole sentence again. So that's the best thing to do. So it's just to bear in mind where you could cut that video and start it again. So if you got tongue-tied halfway through a sentence and it was going really well, or the whole paragraph you said was quite good, you don't need to start again from the very beginning. Just as I said, take a breath, go back to the start of that sentence, unless for some reason it needs to be one full flow. Go back to where you feel like you could start from and just start that again. My point is, these are homemade videos. You are doing it from home. You're not used to doing it. Nobody is a one-take wonder. If you do find yourself doing 20 takes and you're getting very frustrated, just walk away from it and come back to it again, or even simplify it. If you're trying to learn large chunks of information and learn them off by heart and repeat those out, and you're just getting nowhere, break them into smaller pieces. Or if you really need to glance to a note and glance back again, do that. Just maybe glance while you're not speaking. And then continue, because that will allow, again, a nice tidy cut to get rid of that bit where you look away if we need to. But as I said, we're going to lean into the homemade look of these videos a little bit. They're not professional videos being shot in a studio with an auto cue, with everything you need. It's you at home using whatever materials you have and doing your best. So the most important thing is that they're natural and they're comfortable. If you're enjoying it, then the viewer is going to enjoy it. So if you make little fluffs, little mistakes, don't feel the need to start again every time. You'll be kicking yourself by the end of the day is probably how long it will take. Lean into it a little bit, make those little mistakes and just carry on. And I think, that's going to be part of the charm of these videos as well. I'm not sure if that felt like a lot of information for some people to take in. Maybe other people, it's, information they already knew, and it's just about kind of drilling those points home. So I'll just do a quick summary for you. When you're filming on your device, we would prefer a phone over a computer if possible. It's a better camera. When you're shooting on your phone, you're using the camera at the back of your phone. So it's the one at the opposite side of the screen. So there's the screen. It's this camera that we're using. It's a better camera. We're shooting all our videos in landscape, never in portrait, always in landscape. We're picking a quiet, bright room with a nice light source coming in, be it a window or a door, even if it has to be a lamp. Your light source is going to be in front of you or to the side of you. It's never going to be behind you, or you just won't see yourself. You'll turn into a silhouette. Audio is very important. It's very tricky to fix bad audio after the fact. So let's try and get that right before you get started. Plug in a set of headphones, have a listen if there's any weird noises in the room that the microphone is picking up. Try and get to the bottom of those and keep the room nice and quiet. Also very important for you to be comfortable. So once you set up your phone, be it using a gadget as I showed, a tripod, a pile of books, anything, whatever it is you're using, get yourself comfortable and get your frame right. So this is a mid-frame where I'm seeing my shoulders, my elbows, and I'll be able to use my hands and speak to you. I'm able to hold up props so you can see them. This might not be the ideal frame if it's a book I'm trying to read, because I would have to be holding the book up here, which just isn't terribly natural. It might look okay, but I don't know how long I'd be able to hold it like this. And it looks a bit cramped and uncomfortable. So for that, you would do a wider frame. Very simply, you push your camera back, or you push back, so that you can get a nice wider frame. Again, not to have the camera too far away from you, because you want it to be able to pick up some nice clear audio. But as we said, picking a quiet room is going to help a lot with that. Being comfortable is going to be the most important thing when you film these. Also being prepared as to what it is you're going to say. If you make a mistake, simply pause, stop, Start that section again, take a nice breath, and away you go. And leaving those little buffer times is really important. So leaving those 2 to 3 seconds before you start each section or before you start your overall video. And likewise, once you finish, before you reach to hit that stop button, just allow that little 2-3 seconds. And don't forget to smile. Nothing's worse than a very awkward at the end of a video. So you're enjoying yourself. The people who watch this video are also hopefully going to enjoy it. So thank you for watching, everyone. I hope this was helpful to you. And these little tips will definitely help to improve video quality from home. The very best of luck with all your videos, and I hope you enjoy doing them.